The first food I was addicted to, I discovered as an adult, is cereal, right?
Mm,
Latchkey kid carried me all the way, and I've never had control. It's never, if there's cereal in a cabinet, it could be basic four cereal. It's calling my name, right? I've never
mhm.
eaten just a bowl of cereal ever, right? Sure.
This is Sage Talk for Wicked Problems. My name is Meryl Fury. I'm a registered nurse, and I'm co-founder of the Sage Circle Alliance. Our goal at the Sage Circle Alliance, we're a nonprofit, and our goal is to unravel the wicked problems that confront us and keep people from really living their best life. They keep us hamstrung. So let me tell you a little bit about a wicked problem is, and then I'll introduce my guest for today. A wicked problem is, in our definition, a social issue. It's
Mhm.
an issue that persists, even though most people agree it is detrimental to health, the planet, human decency, compassion, or the equality of all living beings. Wicked problems are gnarly and have tentacles that touch other issues and areas all over the planet. They're often held in place by conflicting interests or people that benefit from their existence, either financially or because of power. They're difficult to resolve because of this. And I'll add something else. Wicked problems are also held in place sometimes by the people who are affected by them, because there's something convenient about having the problem there. The people may benefit in some way from having the problem, or they're comfortable with it, right? So that's what we're talking about today. Today, our guest is, let me make sure I'm pronouncing your name right, Marci Kenon, right? All
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
Marci, let me just read a little bit of her bio. She has a lot going on. She is, I'm going to say, dang near as busy as I am. I haven't met too many people who run like I do, but you know what? I think we are neck and neck with all we see that needs to be done and all that we're involved in. So, Marci is
Yeah.
founder of the Preventive Lifestyle Assistance Network, also called PLAN, which was launched in 2019 in collaboration with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, in providing the agency's 12-point national diabetes prevention program to residents of Harlem, New York, which is her hometown. In 2023, her company earned the New York City Minority and Women-Owned Business Enterprise Certification, which is just so powerful. And I'm so proud of you. And thank you for going for that. Marci
Yeah.
is a fitness trainer, a lifestyle coach, and she's turned environmental toxins educator and food justice advocate. She transitioned after reading the FDA enabled, generally recognized as safe or GRAS provisions in Dr. Will Bolshevitz's New York Times bestseller, Fiber Fueled, which we will get into just a little bit. The
Yeah.
generally recognized as safe list permits food companies to decide what additives are safe to add to our food supply. You know, right there, what you said a little bit ago, I'm going to repeat. That means now we have 10,000 plus additives in our food supply, and 99% of them have no studies to say whether they're safe or not. The generally recognized as safe stamp is because it
Well, it's
works for some,
voluntary.
right?
It's a
It works
voluntary
for
bill as
some, but
well.
right. There's nothing behind it that says any of these things are safe. Marci is a graduate of the Dalton School in New York City and University of Southern California, where she earned a BA in print journalism and international relations. She's a former columnist and contributor to Billboard magazine with published articles featuring Jay-Z, Boyz II Men, Damon John, Dr. Dre, Missy Elliott, and Nelly, just to name a few. She's also the producer of the documentary Higher Ground, Voices of Contemporary Gospel Music. I could go on, but then we will run out of time to actually have the conversation. So let's get started.
For a while, I excluded some of those things that I had written, that I'm a writer, I formerly music journalist and all of that. and the fact that I produced a documentary. But now, with what I'm doing with GRAS and with the environmental toxins, I'm getting back to the roots of looking at doing film, looking at
Right,
wondering how we can get celebrities and influencers like J Lo and her
right,
husband
right.
Matt Damon to not stomp for companies like Dunkin'.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
because they have a lot of influence, and Dunkin' has uh, a coffee drink that's 32 ounces with
Mm.
183 grams of sugar,
Oh,
and that 183 grams of sugar in a 32 ounce drink.
my goodness. Okay, so from my weak memory of grams, I think 1 teaspoon is 5 grams or thereabouts.
One teaspoon is it's a lot. I mean, one guy did a video, and he's like, "This is how many glazed donuts are in this one
Holy
drink." I mean, it
moly.
was
Okay,
really, put it this
while
way.
we're talking, I'm going to look it up because that is the
Well, this is what
beauty
I
of.
can tell you in terms of the government recommendation for grams of sugar daily, added sugar is 24 to 25 grams between a male and a female. I believe
Right.
that's the
So that's like
so
six.
so so if you are drinking a drink that has 183 grams of sugar, that's homicide, you
Right.
know.
Okay, hold on. I'm
And
looking at
if
how
you're
many
like
grams of sugar in a teaspoon. 4 grams of sugar in a teaspoon.
okay,
So you said 100 and how many in this one
83
drink?
one drink.
183. Holy moly. So let's divide just because we can. If I can find my calculator. Okay, 183 divided by 4 equals 45 teaspoons of sugar.
Insane. And
Oh
you
my
know what
goodness.
happens when people are putting, listing ingredients now? There's a list. I don't remember the exact deal. I'm sure you could put something in and go, how many names are there for sugar in ingredients?
Yes, you
And
can.
there's dozens of
At least
different
70.
names,
At least
at least
70 the
7.
last time I looked. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
My memory
So
is saying something like 200, but I can't quote that because I don't, I read so much, and I'm like, where would have read that? So
right.
anyway,
So tell our audience a little bit of a description of this problem and what we're looking at that they generally recognize as safe determination in foods.
so as I was saying, I have been invited. I want to give a little background on this. I had been invited to be a participant in a test group. There are people who have products and they actually do testing. Okay, there are some out there. And I have
Mhm.
to say that because in the wellness field, a lot of the vitamins and stuff like that, they're very loosely regulated.
Yep.
And that's a
If at
whole
all.
nother story. Right. So this particular company was putting out a gut health product, exercise program, and so forth. So, one of the people in the private group we had asked, it's 28-day program. Uh, how can we find out more about gut health? And so we were directed to the co-creators podcast with Dr. B, the gut health MD. And as I'm listening to this podcast, I start to order his book, and that's the Fiber Fueled book. And since then, I've had the privilege of interviewing him. I got so excited about Fiber Fueled because for me, looking at gut health and knowing I'm either feeding the good gut bugs or the bad ones. I'm either contributing to my immune system being able to defend me, or I'm contributing to the inflammation that's killing me and
Right.
making me sick. It's such a simple way to think of food. And what is it like? The good gut bugs love fiber, yet
Mhm.
only 3% of Americans get enough fiber, and that's by government standards. And people like Merle would probably recommend more, right?
Mm.
And not Metamucil and stuff like that, like fiber that comes from plants. So,
Right.
I was into this, and I, joined the master class and so forth. But and it wasn't on the first reading, I have to admit that and I have the audio as well, so I'm reading and listening, that I caught this whole GRAS deal. And when I read it, and I thought, 10,000 additives in our food supply, and 99% have no studies. Now, what does have no studies mean? you know,
Mm-hmm.
haven't read it. That's my interpretation of it. And so there's a long history of GRAS, that literally kind of, there's like a 1906 Food Act. I am in New York for real, y'all. If you hear sirens, that's how it goes down. I'm on the 25th floor, and I know it sounds like it's coming through this room, but it's not. So forgive me. Um, so I 10,000 food additives, 99% have no studies. That's insane to me. And I just started thinking about all the products on the food shelves, and there are people who, like, I mean, we're professionals. I've been a fitness trainer showing people how to eat and blah blah blah, never understanding this mountain. Something's really going on out there.
Yeah.
This mountain of this huge mountain against us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if we don't know what's in the food that we're eating, how do we know how it's going to impact our goals, right? And so it really bothered me. And I thought, this is insane. And then as I started digging deeper, I discovered that in 1906, there was the first attempt to like do something about food. People were kind of, it was the wild, wild west, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, by the time 1938, well, food and medicines and stuff, 1938 rolls around, this, as a result of a shrewd pharmaceutical guy, they called them, what did they call them back there? I don't recall off the top of my head, but he was a doctor, and they had come up with an elixir. And there was a medicine they were using, was very effective, but no one had managed to create a liquid version of it. So they created a liquid version of it, but they didn't do the research on the chemical that they added in there, and over 100 people died,
Oh my
and a lot of kids died because when they created a liquid version, then that made it available for kids to have. And so, literally, the FDA was running around the country trying to get these bottles of this medicine. Like they were trying to get them all off the streets.
God.
They needed distribution where they were, and they literally, the entire team of the FDA was running around the country trying to stop people from drinking this poison. So it was at that point that they said, we got to have more control over this. And um, and that's when they created the 1938 uh, act, the bill. Fast forward 20 years later, food wasn't being addressed as much as they needed. So they did the Food Additives Act to address what was going on then. And the food companies, of course, had their lobbyists, and they fought it. Whenever there's something to protect us, the people who are trying to earn money from it start to protest, and we need more leeway. We're not the pharmaceutical companies. We don't have those sort of budgets. Our, you know, profit margins are not as such where we can afford to do the type of testing that they do. So they presented their argument, and they said, okay, well, we'll create a list called the generally recognized as safe list. Now, this list was supposed to be primarily for ingredients that people generally recognize as safe. Different chefs, people in their homes, salt to a certain
Right.
degree.
herbs and spices, right?
Things that people have been using, right? This
Right.
wasn't new stuff. This was things that people, because how can it be generally recognized as safe if it's just, hot out of the, what do you call
Right.
the,
Hot, off the
come
lab
on.
bench, right?
Exactly. So that's what it was originally for. But like so many other laws, people sit around and figure out ways to get around them. So over the years, Nixon kind of tried to straighten some things out in 1969, and then they made some changes in 72. But by the time 1997 rolled around, uh, the FDA is just like, you know what? We're going to let you guys do it. It was no more lists because they were so far behind and all of that and trying to actually do some things. Um, and it was, I believe after that, it was like the
Wow.
the amount of additives because and the graph will show exactly how new things are brought into the food into our food supply.
Right. So
And
would you
it's
like to
really,
show the graph that you're talking
yeah,
about?
let's show the graph here, and then we'll talk
Okay.
about what's happening now and why there's such an uproar because our country is so um, we're not leading the way when it comes to safety for citizens like other
Right.
countries. And to
Right.
give you an example, we've been using the term 10,000 additives, right?
Hmm.
In Europe, there are only 300 or so food additives registered for use.
Right.
In the EU,
Right. So this
300.
this is exactly, and I want to get is sure I'll show the graph now.
So, for those of you who wonder, well, what's the big deal? A lot of these additives are not tested, but there is a huge increase in chronic disease in our country that people are attributing to the food. A lot of these
Okay.
additives end up in ultra processed foods. So the graph you're looking at is from the Center for Science in the Public Interest. This is one of the organizations that has been on the front line fighting to make sure that they're fighting on behalf of the people when it comes to food. And I believe they go even beyond that with air and all of that. Um, and they say here, food manufacturers should not decide in secret that the substances they put in our food are safe.
Mm, mm,
So in this
and
graph,
it's
this presentation, they are calling for the FDA and Congress to close the GRAS loophole, which is what I'm also doing.
right.
I don't have the same
Right.
budget they
So
have.
this
I'm
right,
doing
of course.
what I
That's right.
yeah,
You live in New York. That makes a difference. So this is
so
like
which
a perfect example of a wicked problem, right? It is something that
absolutely
anybody looking would say, okay, this is a problem if we have 10,000 chemicals in our food supply and 99, 99% of them have never
99%
been
of them
tested.
are exactly I have no studies.
Right,
Everything
right.
should have a
And
study
well, at
that's
least
out in the
one.
world, right?
Right, and
That's
certainly
on the market.
by the time it gets in the food supply and you're feeding it to pregnant women and infants and developing children and never mind, everybody else across the lifespan. We should know whether or not they are toxic, dangerous, accumulate and stay in the body for way too long or anything else. Um, so
So
this is
just in
like
terms
the quintessential example of a wicked problem. Somebody is benefiting from this, and it's not necessarily the people who are eating it or consuming it, right?
exactly. So how do new substances enter the US food supply? Now remember, this is an American problem primarily. Other countries, even developing countries, are doing better than we are in this area.
Mm,
So generally recognized as safe. If you look the red side and the green side,
Mhm.
FDA pre-market approval. That is the ideal for our safety, right? That the FDA is involved with it, and this is what the CSPI. This is their preferred pathway. The manufacturer submits pre-market petition to the FDA. The FDA conducts safety assessments. Members of the public, that's us, y'all, have the opportunity to comment. That's another thing
Mm.
that happens. We have
Mhm.
no say. This is a
Mhm.
democracy, and we should have a say with something as crucial as what we put in our temples, right?
Right.
So, if the FDA has unresolved safety questions and concerns, then the FDA rejects the petition or the manufacturer withdraws the petition or GRAS notice. Now, the other option is, I mean, at that point, it could be that, or the FDA formally approves the new food substance. So it's gone
Mhm.
through a process, right?
Right.
Now, if the other one happens, the manufacturer can use the secret GRAS pathway, which we haven't discussed yet. That's on the other side of the GRAS loophole to use the substance in the food product anyway, right?
Mhm.
Or the manufacturer does not use the substance, right? And that is what the CSPI preferred. That's their preferred outcome in the event that the petition or notice has been rejected by the FDA. So what's happening is through the GRAS loophole, so it started out as a list. I've called it a provision because it changed the rigor of the original 1958 amendment to the
Mhm.
1938 bill, right?
Mhm.
So it is really a loophole because that's what people have used it primarily for. So there's two, you see the two paths. The secret GRAS, so they can secretly add stuff that we have no idea,
Wow. Wow.
or voluntary. So one is secret and one is, well, I can or I may or may not. You know what I mean?
What
So,
in
I mean,
the heck? My
pardon
gosh.
me.
What in the
This is
heck?
scary, isn't it? You want to talk about wicked problems.
This
If you have a scale for wicked problems, this is at the top, right?
right. Seriously
So the
wicked.
yes, it's seriously wicked. So voluntary GRAS notice, the manufacturer submits voluntary notice, which means some people are not doing it,
Right.
to the FDA that the substance is generally recognized as safe. The FDA reviews the notice, it doesn't review the product, okay?
Mm.
No opportunity for comments from the public. So we're
Mm.
not even involved in the process. Then two things can happen. After the reviewing, After reviewing the notice for safety of the substance, the FDA sends no questions letter to the manufacturer. Okay,
Wow.
who is this? If FDA has unresolved safety questions or concerns, then the FDA rejects the petition or manufacturer withdraws the petition of the GRAS notice. So theoretically, they could withdraw it and still go do it.
And still put it in.
I mean, I don't know how that part works. So, oh, it's going to show us how it works. Okay. So if the FDA says no, they rejected, the manufacturer could use, oh, yes, the manufacturers can use the secret GRAS pathway of the GRAS loophole to use the substance in the food product anyway. So,
What the heck?
right. Or the manufacturer does not use the substance. That's what we all would prefer,
That's
that
right.
outcome. So that this is very, very scary. So then after reviewing the notice for safety, the substance, there's no questions. He sends a letter to the manufacturer. Then the manufacturer can use the substance in the product without, but this still is the bottom line, without the formal FDA approval.
Wow.
On the other side, manufacturer makes its own determination. This is secret GRAS. So now we're on the very first column. I make my own determination. Now, some of them are supposed to have scientists on the committees, scientists and all of that. Many companies, food companies, spend more money on food scientists and on marketing than they do
Yes.
on, safety and so forth. I can
Right.
tell you
Testing.
that.
Right.
So the FDA is never notified of new substance being used and never reviews any safety information. The
Wow.
manufacturer uses the substance in products without formal FDA approval. This is
Mm,
what's sitting
mhm.
in your cabinets, in your pantries, and on the shelves of the grocery stores in this
Right.
country.
Right.
Now, even though they can get away with that here, the reason this is becoming a big issue is because they are using additives that are considered unfit for human consumption
Hmm.
and banned in other countries. Remember, these are multinational companies. They are looking for markets all around the globe. And
Right.
big companies like Kellogg's, General Mills have to do other versions of their products in order to get into Japan's market, the EU, and in some cases, the UK, and in other countries that have banned, they have done the research, they have done the
Right.
studies,
Right.
and
Right.
can't sell that here, buddy. You can't use that dye. We don't
Right.
do titanium dioxide. So
Right.
we know. And so when people ask, well, why are you still selling that here? They have taste tests. They do spend money on that. They bring foodies into places, and they're happy to try the food and all of that for texture and whatever else they're doing. And so Americans like it. They don't want to mess up with the formula, right?
Right. Well,
Because they're
see,
selling at a certain volume.
there's the next part of the wicked problem. It's being held in place by people who are actually affected negatively by the problem, right?
Right. Now, this is
Unbelievable.
the other thing, and you may remember this because I do, because I was faithfully going to Starbucks for a grande coffee and a
Yeah.
blueberry muffin. That was my morning ritual, right?
Uh,
And then I was hearing about the fact that my muffin was going to change because I have to give New York City. New York City actually banned trans fats. Y'all remember that? Remember the
yes.
whole hoopla? Trans fats were grassed into our food supply, y'all. Imagine that. And it took them 13 years going through legislative processes to get it out of our food supply, right? Big mistake. And in fact, this organization that put that chart up, and I only found this out recently, they were involved in green lighting. They gave they thought trans fats were going to be a good thing for us. So people can
Uh,
make errors who are your advocates. And then when it was in full use, it became very clear this is not good. This is when they were steering people away from real butter and all of that, right? Fat is the enemy. When we now know there are some good fats that we need, and these
right.
seed oils and all of these laboratory created petro based oils
Yeah. Yes.
wreaking havoc on our bodies. Oils like, take it away, Merle.
All of them. I can't believe it's not butter. All these margarines. The
Earth
there's a lot of
balance,
people. Yeah, there's a lot of them. The canola oils, a lot of the oils are
the
GMO
vegetable
derived.
oils.
Wow.
Vegetable oils sounds healthy. They're not. The whole way they're processed is creates a lot of toxins in those
Yeah.
oils, and
Yeah.
our bodies are not recognizing a lot of these chemicals that are in our foods, and ultra processed foods, which we can discuss now because that's the major conduit through which these food additives come. So you say, well, why do they use food additives? They use food additives for a number of reasons. And what I have concluded, the five senses. See, we are lab rats to people trying to sell stuff to us. Their only concern is to get us to buy their product. And we have to understand that they're not concerned about our health. They're concerned
Right.
about us buying their products.
That's
So,
right.
they look at the most base. side of us, right? The natural man. And that's, what I see, right? If I look at some colors, titanium dioxide has one major job, and that's to make colors bright, right? When people buy Skittles, they need to pop, right? That's why you saw kids trying to eat Tide Pods because
Tide
they pop,
Pods.
and they in their minds, M&Ms, and adults'
Hmm.
minds too. Boom, they're bright.
Right.
We don't even want our, everything needs to be shiny and bright. They're always working with our minds on this stuff, and I mean that. The habits, the dopamine hit, that sugar. This is why sugar is in everything, because they want us to have a hyper palatable experience. Say, these foods are hyper palatable. What does that mean, Merle? Hyper
Right.
palatable.
Right.
What's
You,
another word for that?
you know that it has so much flavor and um, so much of a hook, so much of an addictive
Ah,
quality
there
that
you go. Now we're
that
talking.
people will buy the thing and go back for it over and over again, right? Because as you said, the goal is to make profits. The goal is not to try and keep the population healthy. That's like so far down on the list of priorities, it doesn't even rank hardly. But
That's
the
right.
goal is to make profits and to have these products that they invest certain amount of money into research and development and developing and putting the packaging and getting it all together and all the testing and everything they do to make these new products, um, to have these products fly off the shelves and to have their stockholders be happy at the end of the year or whatever cycle that they're looking at for making sure that they're getting the profits in line. So that's what
Exactly.
hyper palatable is, like that you put it in your mouth and it triggers that, oh my gosh, that is so good. I'm going to tell you a funny story. So I know somebody who I love dearly, um,
Mhm.
who called me up one day and said, Meryl, I don't know why I am all of a sudden craving chocolate. I have never liked chocolate. Chocolate has never been a thing for me. You know me my whole life. I don't like chocolate. But I went to Starbucks and it was Valentine's Day and they were giving away cake pops. And I had a cake pop and I sat in my car and I ate that cake pop. And I mean, I wanted another one immediately. It must be the chocolate. And I said to this beloved friend, I said, do you find yourself craving baker's cocoa? Do you want like dark chocolate? Could you eat a whole bar of 78% dark chocolate? Could you do that? She's like, no, I'm not interested in that. That doesn't sound good. I said, okay, then you are not craving chocolate. You are
Right.
craving the experience that was created with that cake pop. And that cake pop had whatever it needed to have to give you just enough dopamine hit so you go back and crave more. You want another experience like you just had, right? That it's not the chocolate. It's the experience and all of the lab testing that went into making that cake pop for you. You know, it's amazing
Yes.
how our senses and our reptilian brain, the old
Reptilian.
um, the instincts we have for bright colors and looking for maximum caloric intake with sugar and fats in particular. The food companies play on that. They're very aware of what they're doing.
And
That's
salt.
what Yeah, and salt. That's what makes this so, so difficult. So here you are. You're aware that there's something going on with the food, but dang, I love that Starbucks muffin. Dang, I love that frappuccino that they change out every season so that it keeps looking fresh and new. Um, dang, I want one of those cake pops because it makes me feel a certain way. It's a
It's
talk
it's
about
so
another.
bad. I was reading a book called Good Energy. We talked about it. I don't know if you had an
Yeah,
opportunity to get it. And
no,
this
no,
is
no.
a doctor who, when speaking to her clients, As a now that she's on the other side, she was pretty much a surgeon, but she realized she wasn't helping her clients, and she also realized that, having all the specialty, even in some instances, like I find I'm getting a lot more traction as now that I am focused on this. I am known for toxins. I am known for GRAS, not just as a fitness trainer, because there's how many
Right.
fitness trainers out there, how many lifestyle trainers out there, how many wellness coaches are out there.
That's
But
right.
now that I have found this passion and want to make this change, I'm getting notoriety. Very
Right.
interesting.
It
But
is.
when it comes to the medical field, and I see this with my mom, when am I going to see my doctor? I'm like, which doctor of the 8 or 10 doctors you currently have? So, you know, there's not a holistic approach. They make an attempt, and Mount Sinai, I have to admit, does a pretty good job. Everybody's in my what is it called? My chart.
Network.
In
Oh,
my
okay.
chart, and they're talking. I'm there connecting the dots on behalf of my
Mm,
mother. You know what I mean?
mhm, mhm, mhm.
But what the point that Dr. Casey Means was making is that um, you can't look at a person, this part, that part, this system. We're holistic. We need
Right, right. You
holistic
can't separate
approaches,
all of those things. They all
right?
impact
And
each
and
other. They're all connected.
because as soon as you see something as a doctor and it's out of your realm and you don't want to for liability reasons, you need to see the thyroid doctor, you need to see the blah blah, you know what I mean? Okay, now we're going over to the neurological, the neuro oncologist. I mean, these are the doctors
Mm,
that my mom is seeing, you understand? Not
mm,
just the
mm,
oncologist who's the lead team, but now we got the brain deal, this cancer may go there, blah, it's a lot.
mm, mm,
um
mm.
so, yeah, and when it comes to us and our health, it has to be more holistic. These foods are having a horrible impact on
Yeah.
our bodies. Our bodies are designed as such. They function. It's like a car. You're supposed to put certain oil, a certain,
Mhm.
gas in your car. If you have an expensive, wonderful car and you're putting the cheap stuff, your car is going to break down, right?
Right.
Um, if you're not
Or even,
maintaining that car,
yeah, it's a problem.
if
We
you're,
can even go further. Let's say you have, it could be a beater. Let's say it's a car that's gone through a lot. Um,
Mhm.
and it's holding itself together. It's just holding together, right? And you start putting, it's a powered car, and you start putting diesel in it.
Mm,
No,
you're not going far at
that,
all.
no, you're not going far. Or if it is a diesel engine, you put regular gas. No. Or if you take a regular car and you decide to put sugar in the tank. No. Or any other chemical, right? It's got to have the right fuel.
But
Absolutely.
most of us don't even know what the right fuel is if you grew up like I did. You know what I mean?
For
Um,
everybody.
yeah, even when I thought I was eating healthy, now that I've learned more, I haven't. Even when I stopped eating meat and I was a vegan, I started to become a vegan food junkie
Junk food.
because there
Yeah,
are
yeah,
vegan
yeah.
products that are just as bad as, regular food, right? I might as well be eating a pork sandwich.
That's right.
But anyway,
That's right.
so and this is, you mentioned a word earlier, I think before we went on air, convenience.
Mhm.
Women have started working when they first introduced the Swanson TV dinners. People, we want ease, we want microwave. We don't care about what the microwave is doing to the structure of the foods that we're warming up. And going
That's
back
right.
to, convenience. There's a lot of people to feed. So the food industry gets some kudos in terms of being able to feed the population. But if you're feeding the population food that's shortening our lives, that's
Right.
actually impacting our fertility.
Right.
This is
Right.
not small stuff. This is beyond cancer, because everything was judged, is it cancerous? That was always the yardstick. Is it cancerous? Well, these things are endocrine disruptors, metabolic. I
Mhm.
mean, they're screwing with all of our systems, our bodies,
Right.
do not recognize these foods, some of these chemicals. And
Yeah.
when the body doesn't recognize something, what does it do? If it can't get it out, it stores it in fat. Is that
Sure.
correct?
That is right.
Yeah.
That is
So,
right.
we have, and then some of these chemicals are obesogens. You want to talk about that, Merle?
Yeah, let's go into that. So when you say obesogens, we break that down, right? Obese being way larger than
Gaining
you need to
weight.
be, right?
Yeah.
Fattening, as my mother would say, that was fattening.
Yes, ma'am.
And the gen means causing, right? Generating. So with these chemicals and Marcy, I don't even call that stuff food. Those things that we're describing, these ultra processed things, are fake food
Substances.
like they're fake food like substances. They are not food.
Industrial. They're made in
They
factories,
really
they're
are.
made in labs,
They really
right?
are. They are not food.
By food
If we
scientists, not
define
bakers.
right, if we
Yeah.
define food as a substance that any living thing would take in, and we'll just make it any living thing that supports life, growth, health, regeneration, repair, right? And prevents trauma to the body, prevents illness. I'll add that in, right? Then these things that we're talking about, these petrochemicals, these fake dyes, these things that are made in labs are not food. They don't meet any of that criteria. They may provide energy, right, in the form of empty calories, sugar or something, but as far as supporting life and health and regeneration, growth, development, um, preventing disease, no, they do not do those things.
So they're actually causing these problems. And the sad
Yeah.
part is, at this stage, and I've heard different percentages, I don't know what you've heard, but in terms of our daily caloric intake on average in this country, you're looking at 50 to as high as 70% with younger people, ultra processed foods,
Yeah. The
from the
the re-
sandwiches, the deli meats, the chips, the cheese doodles. They have something out here
yep, the
called
Takis,
Takis.
yeah, Lord,
They sell
Takis.
them right across the street in the bodega here, and they are known carcinogens now, right?
Yeah. They
So,
for sure can cause gastritis in children. They call
okay,
that kind of tummy because
because
it
they have
causes problems.
yeah, that's burning the lining of their stomachs, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So 'cause that kind of stuff shouldn't even be given to kids, and adults shouldn't be
It
eating it.
shouldn't even be on the, like, shelf
It-
in the area of
yeah.
food. I don't know where it would go, but it's not a food.
It's in the
It's
chips
causing
area. It's right
harm.
there with the
Yeah.
Doritos and all of
Yeah, it
that.
shouldn't be there though, right? It shouldn't
I
be in the
agree.
it's not a food. It causes problems, right? It destroys human health. It
Well,
is
the
not a
reason
food.
that has become an issue is because kids have been showing up at the ER. So, unfortunately, this is the way a lot of this works. Whether it's the food we're eating or the chemicals we're putting in our hair now, they have chemicals everywhere, and we're it's impacting our lives in negative ways everywhere. You know, everybody's eating, just drinking water. What is it, like a credit card size of plastics in our system each day?
Oh, yeah, the
I just read a
microplastics.
figure. We have I mean, like 99% of us have plastics in our body, and they're saying, well, we're not quite sure what impact it's going to have. It's not going to be good.
Right?
you know,
Plastics are
I
not
can,
food,
we can,
remember.
right. It's
Well,
not. And what
you know
is
what?
our body doing with this plastic?
Right. So
Right.
going back to the generally recognized as safe
Yes.
designation, right? A long time ago, I mean, I used to be a great gum chewer, terrific gum chewer, right? Love me some peppermint gum with the, candied outside. You could crunch through that and just,
Ah,
really
yeah,
get a
yeah,
good
yeah.
chew on, like chiclets when I was a kid. And then I advanced as I got older. Well, I stopped when I found out that I've been a label reader for a long time. So the label says that the gum is made from gum base. Now, a long time ago, chiclets, right? Gum was actually a natural substance. Came from
Mm,
plants. It was called chicle, right? That's why those things were called chiclets.
mhm,
Over years, who knows when it changed? They changed to making the chewing gum out of something called chewing gum base. The day I found out chewing gum base was actually plastic, and there you
mm,
are chewing on plastic for who knows how long, and those little
mhm,
bits of plastic are getting stuck in your teeth, or they're adhering to your
mhm.
dental work, or whatever they're doing. That's when I realized I'm eating plastic. Let me
You know,
stop
it's
this nonsense
interesting.
right now.
On Instagram, they have, and I need to find out where I can get this information because it's fascinating. Um, the Taylor Swift's boyfriend, Kelsey, was his full
I don't.
name? Oh no, okay.
I don't.
So
I don't
the
track them,
football
so I
player
don't know.
who's dating Taylor Swift, he and his brother have gotten a deal to promote cereal. They have
Yes,
taken
I
their
did see that.
yeah, their favorite three, and they're horrible. They had poor taste in cereal. I'm like, ah, and the
Right.
combination. I'm like, are y'all serious? Because the first food I was addicted to, I discovered as an adult, is cereal. Right? Back to
Mm,
be kid carried me all the way, and I've never had control. It's never, if like there's cereal in a cabinet, it could be basic four cereal. It's calling my
mhm,
name, right?
mhm,
I've
mhm,
never
mhm.
eaten just a bowl of cereal ever, right? So anyway, and I've never saved any M&Ms either. I mean, that's just I am compulsive in nature. So people like me get into trouble with these foods,
Mm,
right?
mhm,
But
mhm.
anyway, so it was a reason I was mentioning them in the cereal deal. Ah, man, it slipped my mind. But speaking of them, I still will even talk about. Yeah, I used to work in the music industry, and I know the value of these partnerships.
Yeah,
But I think we're at a point where we almost need an agency. I'm going to talk to a couple of people I know that connects healthy products,
yeah.
and the healthiest to beyond the food, even the clothes we're wearing. This is not a good thing I'm wearing right now. You know, we
Mm,
have to go.
mm.
Oh, I know what I was going to say. Yeah. So on Instagram, they've been showing, and this goes back to Kel. He says, when people challenge them on it, it says, we ate it as kids, it didn't harm us. But what did you just say? Now they're showing
Right.
what the ingredients were when we were
We were
kids.
kids. It's
And the
different.
ingredient totally different. I mean, a slew. It may have been 3 to 5 ingredients then, and now that ingredients list has increased to like 10 to 15 ingredients.
Right,
It is
right.
not the
It's not the
same.
same.
Those cocoa pebbles I used to eat.
Right.
I'm going to check on
You
the stuff
know,
I used to eat. You
not
know.
long ago, I was speaking with an MD that I know who's very well read in the plant-based and whole foods and food as medicine space, right? And he was
Yes.
telling me that he had just seen a study where they looked at the diets of pregnant women, and the women who ate a lot of animal products and the ultra processed foods and all of that, when we're pregnant, people just, oh, eat whatever you want. You're
I'm
craving
eating for
that
two. I'm
thing.
eating for
Yep.
two.
Yeah. Go ahead and eat it. Right. And people will
Yeah.
go out in the middle of the night to get the thing the pregnant woman wants, even if it's, whatever fried chicken thing or a fried fish thing or ice cream with, the cliche ice cream and pickles. Right. So, he said they did this study on women who were pregnant and watching them eat whatever they ate. The ones who ate the highly processed and heavy animal product diet, their children were born with fatty streaks in their coronary arteries at birth, meaning they had early stage heart disease at birth.
I can
Now,
believe that. I'm sorry.
yeah, I was going to say, now when it comes to the point that we can see that kind of a correlation, that the mom is eating this and the child shows up with this kind of these symptoms, these data points, these something should be done. It should be an automatic, okay, this is not acceptable. We need to at least push back with public service announcements or something, educate people that this is not really a good idea. No, we don't just dive face first into fast food every day, all day long, such that it causes a problem for the baby that you're carrying, you know?
Well, on a couple of notes, the environmental working group did a study of the umbilical cord of about, I think they said about 11 babies. This is an old
Mhm.
this is an old study. And at that time, they found over 200 chemicals. There used to be a belief that the placenta protected the baby.
Yeah.
Like they talk about that brain,
Blood-brain
that
barrier.
barrier.
Mhm.
Yeah, things are getting through that. And the baby, before the baby could even come out, had 200 chemicals.
Right.
Now,
Right.
I used to be a provider in the baby. So the baby is toxic before it can even come out of the womb. Okay.
Right.
That's what's happening. When you see all the autism and different things going on, and people wonder why,
Right.
um, titanium dioxide, which is in Skittles, creates um, problems for kids, you know, at birth. Really bad problems.
Mhm.
That's statistically what happens. Um, when I used to do the diabetes prevention program, one of the you had to have pre-diabetes too. You had to qualify, and they had a list of questions which could qualify you, right? If you had a baby over a certain weight, that put you in pre-diabetes mode just by having a baby that's 9 pounds.
Right.
The chances
That's right.
that that the mother would become diabetic increase, and the chances that that baby would become diabetic greatly increase just by being born so heavy,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So you know, a lot of this, we were talking about obesogen. So you know, you're doing well, you're eating well, you're in the gym and you're doing your thing, but you can't seem to lose weight. Could be something in the shampoo.
Oh
Imagine
my
that.
goodness.
Yeah,
Right?
some of these
Wow.
toxins may not be what you're eating, it may be what you're putting on your skin,
Isn't that
right?
crazy?
It's
Yeah, because
insane what's out here,
this generally
you know.
recognized as safe list is not only about food, it's about
Well,
the
no, that
chemicals.
list is about food
Okay.
chemicals. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, that is really about food itself. But I've been studying when I talked about the 350,000 chemicals that are in use, registered for use and production. That's globally. You know, that's in everything. That's in our mouthwash. That's in, you know, I give an example of a woman. They talk about how many chemicals we're using daily on our bodies. We're not even
right.
talking ingesting. We're talking, I'm getting in the shower. I'm using
Right.
soap, chemicals. I am using, you know, if I'm washing my hair, chemicals. If I'm putting conditioner in my hair, that's more chemicals, right? I get out of the shower, I dry myself off, and then I start putting lotion on my
Lotion.
body,
That's right.
moisturizer, you know. Then I start to put my makeup on, right?
That's right.
They just
That's right.
recently have made an announcement that the glue that women are using with these lashes has formaldehyde in it. Formaldehyde is showing up in a lot of stuff. Yeah. So now I'm putting on eyeliner, chemicals, lipstick, chemical, foundation. If you're doing a full face like some of these women are, I mean, when you see those makeovers, which is actually quite scary to me, some of the makeovers that I see, I'm
Yeah.
like, what? What? You get
Right.
no, I don't want to be that unrecognizable. You know what I mean?
Right.
But, anyways, so imagine someone doing all of that makeup, right? It's insane. Then you're going to put on perfume. So you're
Right.
putting perfumes on. And then you might be in a room, with a plug-in, carcinogen. They're talking
Yes,
about those now,
that's
all of
right.
those fumes,
Right.
candles, everything that we're doing is toxic. It's
Right.
chemicals,
It's all
right?
chemical based, you know.
And let's
It
go
really
back
is.
to the food. So we are swimming in toxins. So what do we do? Because we got to get to the solution of this as well.
Right.
You know,
Right.
we have to go back to basics. I recently I started to eat, forgive me, Merle, on this one, but I was eating an egg and cheese sandwich um, with grilled onions on some whack bread. The bread here is so bad, they cannot sell it in Europe. They don't recognize it as bread because of the
Not
chemicals. Imagine
right.
that. So I'm eating that bread at the bodega across the street. Now I don't eat meat, right? But my food is being cooked on the same grill with the person say, "Can I have a bake? Can I have a BLT?" You understand?
Right.
So and I am religious when I get into these habits. Then all of a sudden, I started to get my skin started to break out. Yes, I mean, like, break out. Like, I'm running to the urgent care. What is this? You
Right.
understand? I personally believe I shouldn't be eating dairy for real now. Sometimes we have to go through some things to get the message.
Yes.
But more
Yes.
importantly, I shouldn't be eating on a grill where someone's cooking pork and stuff that I don't eat, right? So that means that I need to cook at home so I know what's in the
What's
food.
in it? That's right.
You know,
As best you can.
as
As
best as
best you
right,
can.
right, as best I can. So my goal is to eliminate. I have to get to zero added fats. Excuse me, added sugar in my diet
Yeah.
because I have an addictive personality. I am
Hmm.
34 years free from alcohol and cocaine abuse. 34
Hmm.
years. It does not even compare to trying to shake what is in these foods out here,
Not
particularly
crazy.
sugar. I'm a
Wow.
witness, I am telling you. And I have been through the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and Overeaters Anonymous, and I'm going to tell you this. So many of us who have long term sobriety, right? Like me, I don't drink. I don't stick my tongue in I don't do any of that. I don't go doing wine tasting and swishing
Right.
wine.
Right.
None of
Right.
that. I am sober. When it comes to food, it's crippling people who have long
Yeah.
term sobriety, right? Free from heroin, can't get rid of M&Ms. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Sugar.
This stuff,
Right.
sugar. I'll tell you something else I read that was it pissed me off. So the company that makes this particular baby formula, they're in Europe somewhere, they were doing a version of their product for the European market that had zero added sugar for baby formula,
Mm.
right? That's what they should do.
That's right.
The
That
version
shouldn't
that
be
they were
unusual.
sending, the version that they were sending to developing countries had 5 grams of sugar in it. Why? Why would you make the differentiation between Europe
In
and
developing
these
countries.
brown people, right? Sugar is a beast. Sugar is poison. Added sugar. We can get sugar in natural sugar. It's a different ball
Sure.
game. You
Right.
understand? But they have trained. We're like lab rats. Our taste buds, for those who are so unfortunate. I mean, there are women I see, their kids have never had, they've only had vegan, plant based diets. They have not had any junk, no fast food, any of that ever. And I'm
Mm.
like this because if
That's
you
right.
have, you have to shake that stuff. And it's not easy societally, culturally, right? And they've trained the taste buds. Now that can change like this. I don't know. let's say 21 days, your taste buds can change. But what happens is, if you think like, I don't buy oranges too often. I love when I get an orange that's sweet and succulent that I like, but I'm not a I don't like sour. I
Mm,
don't like
mhm, mhm,
tart. You
mhm.
understand? I like red, delicious apples, and I'm looking for the deepest, reddest one I can find when I'm in the
Oh my
market. You
goodness.
understand what I'm saying? And I can't say I would that green, not me. That's my palate.
Uh-huh.
So there are people whose palates can't take anything. They don't. I don't like water. I don't drink water. Girl, what? You don't drink water? You are
Right?
in trouble. You
No.
better be soon
Yeah,
enough.
that's something you need to develop a taste for real. You know what?
Our
Let's
taste, the taste buds have been hijacked. Is the point I'm making.
yeah,
And when kids, or you start kids off with all of this, you know, Pop Tarts and all of that, they don't have a palate for the foods that actually nourish their bodies. If you're not giving them carrots, if you're not give or if you're giving them food that's so cooked, all the nutrients are cooked out of them, you know, and that's another thing I'll say before we get to the next point, learning about eating locally. Like, a lot of these chemicals are to maintain, to preserve foods. Um, they take all the nutrients out and try to
right.
throw a little something in them to make them the shelf life longer. But what I'm hearing now, and I'm learning so much, is if your food is coming 1,500 miles or 800 miles, the further away the produce comes, it actually loses nutritional value along the way. I never
Yeah,
thought of that.
yeah. Well,
So
you
it's
figure
actually,
they have to pick it green,
mm,
right? It's
mhm,
not ripe. They pick
mhm,
it, they package it, they keep it in certain specific environments during the transit so that it
mhm.
doesn't ripen too quickly. It's got to be ready to go, like, or maybe could still be green when it arrives at the grocery store, but it can't be rotten, right? It can't be. It's got. There's a little bit of a window for what's acceptable for produce in the grocery store. Yeah. Yeah, it's in fact what I've been reading and sort of paying more attention to is that frozen vegetables and fruits
Yes,
sometimes are the best answer
yes.
because they're
I
picked
was
at
about
peak
to say
ripe,
that.
right? Right? They're picked at peak ripeness and then frozen immediately
Yes.
rather than, getting okay, I live in Wisconsin. There's no mangoes up here. We don't grow mangoes. We don't grow pineapples. We don't grow bananas, right? Papayas,
Right,
none of
right,
that stuff. Avocados, that stuff doesn't grow here. So any of
right.
that we buy has been purchased or grown somewhere else and trucked here,
Mhm,
just like you in New York, right?
mhm.
And it's been picked green so that it can get here and be halfway, not quite ripe, and give it a couple days to ripen on the person's counter. And that's what we've gotten
Yeah.
used to. I
So,
wanna go
yes,
back to because we're coming up on more than an hour now. We've been having a great
that's very
conversation.
easy. Very
It
easy.
really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for allowing time for this and making this happen. This is great. So you are in New York.
Yes. I'm in Harlem.
Right, right. The
Mhm.
the famous Harlem, New York. My father
The
grew up there.
famous Harlem.
That's right. So what are you doing to push back against the GRAS designation?
So I started a movement, Close Grass. And what I believe is that we need a seat at the table in terms of legislation in Washington locally. Like, mothers need to be at the schools discussing what foods are served to kids. That's where a lot of kids, where this stuff starts for them,
Mhm,
you know.
mhm.
Um, so getting involved legislatively, I think, is important. There's some people who argue this is, oh, it takes 20 years for this to happen and that to happen. Oh, well, because
Right,
the food companies and their lobbyists are at the table. They're at the table with the politicians who they're going to give money to support, right? We have to be at the table legislatively. So there are certain things happening already. California in October of 2023 was the first state. A lot of states are now taking action, feeling that the federal government is working too slowly. And this is becoming a hot issue. Mothers are really distraught that so many things, that it's a lot of deception, and they have marketers, food scientists. And I found this out, Merle, since we last spoke.
Mm,
I was thinking that a lot of these deceptive marketing practices came from the tobacco industry that bought about, the top three food companies when they were losing market share and being sued, right, for
mhm,
poisoning
mhm.
people and knowing that they were poisoning people with cigarettes.
Right.
But I just heard the other day, and I was fascinated by it, that they learned their tricks of the trade from the sugar industry. Wow,
Oh,
makes sense. You got addictive products. So they
right,
brought, they work with addiction. Everyone's not going to become addicted to these foods, but enough are. And they
right,
don't care that you end up with diabetes, obesity, cancer. Not their problem, right?
right.
And I heard
In fact,
some
they're saying, well, we're just giving the people what they want.
what
People are
they want.
asking for these products,
This is what they want. And
and they don't
so,
hide that they're addictive anymore. That's
right.
the big way
Well, they
out.
they, they call them comfort food, right?
Well, what
And
they'll
what's the
say,
other term?
craveable. It's
Right. So
craveable.
they
It's what
use
you
pretty,
crave.
and it's your fault. That's the other thing that
You
boggles my
crave it.
mind. A lot of people do not know, if a woman goes into a bar and she asks for a drink, and if someone has spiked a drink, she didn't know that. She didn't ask for a drink that would have her passed out with some man taking her to rape her. She didn't ask for that. She
Right,
was just
right,
drinking a glass of wine. So we're kind of like that woman who's been, her drink has been spiked. Our foods are spiked. In some
right.
cases with ingredients that even the FDA doesn't know about,
Does it know?
right?
Yeah, it sounds
We
like
don't know
almost
what's
every
in
case
the
it's like
food.
that. Yeah,
We don't know what's in the food, but what we do know is we have a seriously sick population. Our fertility is going down. The ability of us to reproduce as a species is impacted by the foods and all the other toxins in our environment. This
right,
is a serious problem, but the sad part is industry is so powerful that even though we could be at the verge of extinction from these issues, these are not small matters, right? We don't have enough men who are in shape and women who are in shape to even defend this country.
that's
Everybody's
right.
fat. I'm not going to be polite about it, right? Everybody's overweight, right? You have to be able to run and do different things. Lizzo's the only
Yes,
person who can jump around and stay. People look at Lizzo and she's acrobatic and all of that, and she just lost. She's been in the gym and she got off a bunch of weight,
good
because
for her.
weight comes with problems. It's not just about looking great in your clothes and all of that. It
Right,
comes
right.
with issues, and it's
It does.
glorified. Weight is glorified in the community I live in. I've gained some weight and I'm horrified. As soon as my neighbor noticed, she says, "You've gained weight. You look good."
Mm,
She said to me.
mm.
I was like,
Interesting. Yeah,
yes. Yeah.
that's a
Neighbor in
cultural.
New York City and Harlem. That wouldn't happen to a neighbor in Los Angeles.
No, that wouldn't
Different.
yeah. Yeah, and over
No, no,
here, I'm in
no, no.
Wisconsin, most of the folks in Wisconsin are meat and cheese eaters. So, it
Okay.
looks like that. So, tell me,
Yeah.
what are you
Yes.
doing to push back? Because you have your closegras.com.
Yeah. So I'm trying to
Tell
bring
us about that.
to the average person. A lot of people are interested in this. They are hearing about it on social media. So I want to let people know about the legislation and how to support it. I've set up, closed grass. I have a petition there that it's actually the actual legislation, and we're only saying, we know that you have this legislation for New York State to ban 7 food additives that are
Right.
deemed harmful for us, and we got your back. So I'm trying to get 10,000 signatures for that. Cory Booker, senator from New Jersey, and Edward Markey, who is a senator from Massachusetts, they have partnered and they have created the Ensuring Safe and Toxic Free Food Act, Foods
Hmm.
Act. And so, what happens with this legislation when people like you and I don't know about it, it languishes, disappears. Somebody coming through the door, if a politician loses his or her position, they may pick it up or not.
Right.
So, this isn't a new piece of legislation, but it was just reintroduced in Thanksgiving, around Thanksgiving of 2023. Now here we are coming up on Thanksgiving again, right?
Right.
So I would love to get 100,000 signatures on that as well. Um, I'm also doing. I'm on LinkedIn, meeting some like-minded people. I had the privilege of meeting a guy who is with the environmental working group. I think he actually attended when I interviewed you. I think he might
Okay.
have been there. But anyways, they do a lot of work in this area in terms of legislation and so forth. Um, so I'm doing a biweekly um, newsletter called Detox Your Life. And you can go to marcikenonmyname.com and sign up for
Right.
that. You can also sign up for the biweekly panel that I'm doing. So I
Great.
have another one coming up next Wednesday. I believe it's the 25th. If you go to the site, you can sign up for that. So I'm teaching people. So my method is E3 method: educate people, empower them. And I think the empowerment comes from knowing that, I can support legislation, I can write a letter, I can get behind, what's happening, I can make the choices different from my family, I can go into the schools and ask about the menus and how, and get involved in processes. We don't have to sit around. The food industries, these industries are huge and they seem like they're invincible, but they're not. They're
Right.
not invincible. One thing that the gentleman from the environmental working group said to me, and this is another thing we can do, because you have to remember with the civil rights, people talk about the marches a lot, and yes, we need to march about this, right? But they stopped riding the bus. Boycott. It
Hmm.
was them stop. They put the bus company out of business. They stopped riding the bus. And they, once they were on their knees, they're like, y'all can sit wherever the hell you want to sit, because we can't function without you. Yes. So we have to use those methods. One thing that Homer said to me, and it made sense, he says, they don't care about legislation, right? They don't care about lawsuits. They got money for that on the side. All the money they make, they can get sued and spend $1 billion. They've made how many billions, right? He says, but they do care when you stop using their products.
Stop buying.
That's
That's
the
right.
key, right? But the
That's
hard
right.
part about that, if you think about Michelle Obama, you know, people fight for the right. It's called willful ignorance. They just had a huge summit about it with top thinkers from around the globe. And their conclusion was that we are willfully ignorant. And
Yeah,
we want to
nobody
stay.
wants to be told what to do. Don't tell me what I don't want to know.
Mhm.
Even if it's in my own best interest, I don't want to hear it.
Mike
Right?
Bloomberg said he looked at the data, and with data, they know exactly what's going down. That's why they can tell you, if you're from a certain zip code, you probably will end up in jail, because that's what the statistics say. Some people may not, and that's a good thing, but they can dictate who's going to be diabetic, who's going to end up with amputations. Amputations from diabetes is the number one reason for amputations now. It's not car accidents and stuff like that. It's
Right.
people,
Right.
you know, being limbs, losing their limbs, right?
And the funny thing
Very
is
real.
that that willful ignorance, I love that. I'm gonna look that up and study that. I'm gonna look for this summit you were just talking about. Um,
Dr.
people
Robert
are
Lustig was there.
okay, because
Yeah.
people are manipulated all day long, every day, to
Mhm.
buy these foods and to want these things, and and it's a whole spectrum of things that we're manipulated and marketed to
Mhm.
purchase and consume in all kinds of ways, right? All
Mhm.
kinds stuff we know we don't need, and that's not
Mhm.
good for us, but we consume it anyway, and it's through marketing that that's done. So there's this willful ignorance, yes, and this willful, you will not tell me what to do, you will not dominate me, you will not make me do, but we're willing to sit and be manipulated by um, means that are not above board. We'll sit for that. We don't want
And the
anybody to
other,
tell us outright, but we'll sit and be manipulated.
I think one of the
That's it.
challenges, and I face it myself. I'll tell you, I changed my whole. I'm like, I'll dedicate the rest of my life to this cause. First time ever, I was into music because I love music. I went into music, you know what I mean? Very shallow sort of thing. But when I read this and I thought about the implications of it, I felt betrayed. I felt betrayed. I felt like, isn't our government supposed to work for us? Who's working for the people? You know,
Very,
if they
very
can
few
put
people.
anything in our food, I mean, food is sacred. Our bodies, our temples are sacred. Our FDA and USDA and all of these acronyms are not working to keep us safe, and we're paying for this.
That's right.
We're spending our
That's right.
hard-earned money
Our
feeding this
tax
to our
dollars at work.
kids, and we're in the store buying stuff. If women knew what these things, if the kids dropped dead on the spot, it would be different. But
Right.
these things set you up for disease. Like you said, the baby's born predisposed, and this is the manipulation too. The medical system doesn't help, because as soon as you come in, they start asking you, who has cancer, who does this, blah blah
Yep.
blah.
Yeah.
These things are not hereditary, people. These are lifestyle choices that we're making to not move our bodies, to eat garbage, and expect different results. People
Right.
are, butts are numb. There is now a condition from you sitting too long that
Mhm.
it numbs the nerves in your butt. That's a lot of sitting. That's
It
a lot of
is.
sitting. So, it's the lifestyle. And you can see pictures of people. You see pictures. There's a picture of a group of Black women on a beach. Not one of them was obese or even
Right.
fat, for that matter.
Right.
There used to be the fat lady in the
Right.
circus.
That's
If
right.
someone
And
is in the
she was a
circus,
freak, right? She was a sideshow
there
attraction.
you go. The tall
Not
man,
anymore. Right?
right.
Not anymore.
So these things are new. They try to normalize them, and then if you're fat shaming someone, our dysfunction is making people rich.
Mhm.
So they want us to stay in this dysfunction because it's profitable,
Well,
right?
there's your wicked problem. That's it.
And we
So,
can, yeah, yeah.
we Marcy, you and I ought to go out to lunch someday. We ought to meet
Yes,
halfway between New York and Wisconsin
yes.
and
Well,
get together.
there is an event. I just found out about it and I got my Amtrak ticket, right?
Where is it?
There is an event in Washington Monday,
Mm.
and it's interesting. It's a bunch of these wellness. The food babe is there. Callie Means and his sister. They formed a an organization that is called End Chronic Disease.org, I believe it is. And so they put it up and they say, this is a bipartisan, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not seeing, I said, well, are you guys promoting the senators who already have a bill up.
Right.
uh, you know, so yeah, it's a roundtable discussion on American health and nutrition, a second opinion. This
Mm.
is a bipartisan movement to reverse the chronic disease crisis, and it's coming to the Senate. Leading health voices will testify. I will tag you on this on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So I'm
Well,
going.
that
I
will
thought,
be
oh no, I'm going to be there because if it's really nonpartisan, I should be welcomed. So
right.
you
Right.
know, I stalked them and just put all the information that I have in terms of who's doing what. Have y'all
Good.
invited Cory Booker and Marquis? Have you invited? You
Right.
know, I just
Hello.
and put all the links in there for them, right? So
Right.
I'll be going to this event and seeing what's happening. I have a friend who's out there, and she sent me the same thing. Interestingly enough, and her goal is to define food, that legislatively food should be defined,
It should
because if you
be.
define food, then people can't sell everything and call it food. So that's
Yeah.
her
Well, I mean,
approach.
there's some of that already, right? There's the processed cheese food product, or there's peanut spread products. They have some of that where they have not allowed it to be called food, but
Well,
yeah,
even the
by and large,
syrup,
people still keep buying it.
yeah, if you go to the International House of Pounds, see, none of this stuff we think about. We just assume that,
Yep.
like going into, you pay for, it's very expensive to have syrup, maple syrup from a tree,
Yep.
right?
That's
When
right.
you go
So they
into
have
the, it's not syrup.
no,
But
and what,
people don't know that.
no, and what do they call it instead?
What do they call
Table
it?
syrup. Table syrup. It's not maple syrup. It's table syrup. If
A
you
lot.
don't,
And and I'm gonna tell you, people who are trying to stay healthy, be alert. Use the Yuka app, yuka.com. I love that app, by the way. It not
mm,
only tells you what's happening with the food, you can scan the barcode and find out everything about the ingredients of food as well as personal products.
right,
That's
right,
winning. And then you can make changes. You can decide, because they give a grade 1 through 100. And you can say, I'm not eating anything that's less than 90. You know what
right,
I mean?
right,
You can
right,
start, if it's under 70, you really shouldn't be eating it. I mean, you can make your
right,
own. You have to make your own decisions on that, or putting it on your body. But you cannot be. I'm gonna give you a story. There's a guy I know, Phil. I have interviewed Phil publicly a couple of times. Phil lost 100 pounds. He did it naturally, and he's kept it off for over a decade.
mm,
Phil is so intentional. He isn't as intentional as these companies are with what they do. He's intentional about his own abstinence, as it's called in OA.
sure, sure,
Abstinence
mm,
is staying away from the foods. You have to really start to look at these foods for what they are.
right,
We play around with this. Oh, I can just have a little of this. It's
right,
not designed for you to have just a little of it. It is designed to hook you. That's what it's designed to do, to make you get a hit, just like somebody who's smoking a joint or who's
right,
sniffing some cocaine, or yeah, it is designed to give you a dopamine hit. That's what they're doing. That's what they have all these scientists doing. So you can have a certain texture in your mouth. Like, people
right.
hate liver. When I ate meat, I used to love chicken liver. Some people can't. I don't like the watercress, that crunch. I don't like. So textures, they're playing
Mhm,
with textures. They're playing with what you see, how it
right,
feels, the crunch of chips. All of this, that they leave nothing up to chance because they
that's right,
want you to eat it, and they invest in it. We have to have the same determination to keep our kids, our grandkids, our families, and ourselves safe from this stuff. It's not easy. I have a mother who is a junk food junkie. I'm sure I needed a Mary Jane when I came out the womb. Okay, she was smoking and had full of sugar. Right? I mean,
Right.
I asked my mom, "How did you lose your teeth?" Candy. Our teeth
Wow.
is tougher than cement. But I saw a kid in the dentist around the corner here. They were doing surgery on this little kid, and the mother had the
Mm.
audacity to say, "See, I told you about eating that candy." What? He's
Yeah,
5.
no, you
They're
gotta
about to
keep
do
the candy away
surgery on
from
his.
them.
That's insane. But he's
Yeah.
addicted to candy, and he's major surgery on a 5-year-old, and his
Yeah,
mother's
that's so
blaming
sad.
him. So, we have to be more diligent. We have to be like Phil. Phil travels. Like, I just was with a client. He says, "Oh, he has to go to Louisiana for a week every month to take care of his
Mm,
mom." And he's
mm,
eating, and he just falls right into the trap of all that wonderful food
mm.
they have down there that is fried and all kind of.
Right?
And then he was out of sorts today, but and I'm gonna try to help him the next time. You have to plan. You can't just go up in Louisiana. You
Yes.
got to you
No,
got
no,
to
they have
know.
grocery stores in Louisiana. They have stores you can buy food there. You don't have
But
to succumb to the barbecue
listen,
belt.
I had a client I was training, and she's a Greek girl. Her mom wanted her to eat when she came. You know what I mean? There's the pressure of culture, right?
Yeah.
And the mother's like, "What is that? No," she's making food for her and so forth. So we have to. Oh, I have to go over there. We have to
Yeah,
guard ourselves. We have to be very intentional. Most of us
yeah,
do not grow up with that type of discipline, but one thing about habits and discipline, you can develop it one
that's
step at a
right.
time, one habit at a time. You can help your
Yeah.
kids be disciplined, but you got to see these foods for what they worth. They're not something that you want to play with, because they're killing us. They are making
Yes,
us sick.
they're
We are
deadly.
suffering, and we are dying prematurely. This generation is not going to live as long as the parents. This is the first time
That's
in how
right.
long?
Right.
This
Yeah, a
is
lot ever,
serious.
ever.
I'll say this
So,
last thing, because you guys got to
yeah.
know how real this is. I have a coach I was working with, and he's made some money. He does this thing, and he was given a tip. You guys, check this out. Start thinking about fertility clinics for men. Fertility clinics for men. Yeah, because the sperm count is so low around the world that men are going to need help in order to procreate. He's
Hmm.
saying start investing in having those type of, be ready for it, because it's coming. Can you imagine
Wow.
that?
No.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
where we are.
that's a mess.
It's from the chemicals, but
Yeah,
he's
right.
lining up to make money on the dysfunction. Somebody's got to do it, right?
That's right.
Because they're going to
Somebody
need
will.
help. They're going to need
Well,
help.
listen, tell me because
Yes.
Marcy, we could talk for another 3 hours, but we got to wrap this one up. So
Yes.
tell me where people can find you. And definitely we'll put it in the show notes that people can locate your website and your petitions and track the work you're doing and support whatever, wherever it lands for them. Tell us how people can find you.
You can always find out what's going on at Marci Kenon, MarciKenon.com. And you can also go to Close Grass, that's with one S, closegras.com. I am working on my first book. It's called Ultra Processed. It's not food, and it's killing us. That's the book, coming the first quarter. I
Yes.
am also working on, as I was talking to Merle about the fact that I did a documentary called Higher Ground, Voices of Contemporary Gospel Music, that was released in 2004. I'm dating myself. That was my
Mhm.
exit from the music industry. I interviewed Kirk Franklin, Mary, Donnie McKirk, and all the big people are in that documentary. I also did an accompanying CD that, because they wouldn't give me master licenses, I had to do all the independence. It's called Higher Ground, Reformed and Reborn. I am now working on it's very early stage, but kids need to know how to eat. And I'm going to do something on the gut. And I have a wonderful concept. It could really blow up and become, an empire, really. But anyways, it's geared towards kids, showing them, talking to them about the microbiome and the different. We have what 30 trillion uh, gut bugs in our
Right.
systems that you
Right.
know help us, and some hinder us, and you got to feed one or the other. A lot of times we like to try to dip and dab and kind of, as they say in AA, half measures avail us nothing. I've recently
Right.
understood that, really. You either over here or you're over there. Trying to be in the middle, particularly with your health, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. We've all tried. Well,
Right.
I don't know if Merle's tried it, but I've tried it. I've done the research for you. It doesn't work.
Thank you.
But anyways,
Well,
so those are the things I'm working on. You can come and you can
great.
join in on the conversation of the panel, and you can read the newsletter. The panel deals with more than just food. It's reducing your toxin exposure and optimizing your health. I give steps about that as well, because that's the bigger picture of all of this. So my specialty and focus is on the foods, because we have the most
Right.
control in theory.
That's right. That's right. Well,
There.
Marcy, thank you so much for your time. This has
And thank
been,
you for having me. I so enjoy your
yeah.
conversations.
Well,
Yes.
likewise. This has been a great conversation. Thank you for all the work you're doing around the generally recognized as safe list and that whole gnarly, wicked problem of having um, chemicals in our food system that people are told are okay or not told about at all. And then we live with the impact of that. Keep up the good work, and you and I will stay in touch. Um,
Come out to
I've so
DC.
enjoyed
Come
this.
out to DC
Okay,
for
I can
Monday.
do
Come
that.
out to DC Monday.
All
Seriously, I
right.
need
Well,
some
Monday I
liberal.
can't. Monday I can't, but
All right.
we
Well,
will
we'll meet
absolutely.
face to face soon enough. Thank you so
That
much
will
for
be
the work
great.
you're doing. Appreciate
All
you.
right. Yes, you are so welcome. My pleasure. All right. We'll talk soon.
Bye, everybody. Stay healthy, y'all.